Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. This is your host, Sean. On this episode, we are going to do a Bears-only extravaganza. So strap in and get ready for this episode. But first, before we start, as always, we'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Single game tickets go on sale for the 2016-27 season this coming Wednesday, September 14th at 10 a.m. The Ice Hogs begin the 2016-2017 season on the road with a two-game set against the defending Calder Cup champion Cleveland Monsters on Friday, October 14th at 6 p.m. and Saturday, October 15th at 4 p.m. You can get tickets, single game tickets starting Wednesday, or you can get full season tickets starting now, or a t-shirt, jersey, etc. Get ready for the upcoming season with the great Rockford Ice Hogs. Only 90 minutes from the city limits and single game tickets starting at just $9. So you can bring your whole family and not go broke. Check them out, icehogs.com. All right. I really did have a bunch of Cubs things I wanted to talk about, but none of it's so much that I can't postpone it until next week. Talking about potential playoff rosters and some of the decisions that have to be made, but none of that's that important. Right now, we are in regular season NFL football. That means our beloved Chicago Bears are back on the field.
The Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were. The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
So, there was a few things to watch prior to the game. Some of the things that were noted and talked about. How would the Bears defensive backs be able to handle, with all the injuries and the inexperience, be able to handle the wide receiver sets and the new quarterback that the Houston Texans would be able to throw at them? How would they be able to handle that? Would they be able to get turnovers? How would this revamped offensive line hold up against the just absolutely brutal Texas front four? And how will the Dowell Loggins play calling look? Those are the things that we were talking about before the game and questions that we had. And I think we feel like we've found answers to everything, whether they be good, bad, or hold our breath and hope for the best. Let's break it down. Some of the key plays of the game. The Tracy Porter interception on the first drive, that was really fantastic, and I really hoped that was going to be setting the tone. On that drive, you saw the Bears struggling a little bit to stop the run, and that was something that went along for most of the game. The Houston Texans were able to pretty much run at will. Not huge, crazy long runs, but significant chunks of, I think they were at one point are averaging, I think in the third quarter, I didn't look at the final results, but in the third quarter, they were averaging about 6 yards a carry, which is ridiculous. You shouldn't be able to do that on this revamped defensive line. That was a huge play. The touchdown run by Jeremy Langford, that was a significant play. The long touchdown pass to Eddie Royal by Jay Cutler, great, huge, momentous play. There was the strip sack on Jay Cutler, which, I mean, they got, but it was That was a significant play. The Jacoby Glenn breakup pass down towards the goal line, that was a huge one. The 35-yard pass to Will Fuller that John Fox threw a challenge on, that was a significant play. Those were some of the big significant plays of this game, and you could see that there was a lot on both sides of the ball on both teams. But what we had was that just really came up short for the Bears, and the better team came out and won this one. The only the only radio personality I listened to after the game so far has been Lawrence Holmes, and I was really annoyed because there was a lot of dumb things that were said by the broadcast team, a lot of dumb things, and he just seemed to reiterate some of the really dumb ones, and it was really frustrating because I think Lawrence Holmes is better than that, but maybe he's not. He was just reiterating a lot of the points that were made rather than actually breaking down the game and analyzing himself. I mean, it's fine to have an opinion. It's fine to look at other people's analysis of it and then use that to form your own opinion. But that's some of the things you learn along the way, Lawrence. You're a professional broadcaster. You should be able to analyze these games on your own. I mean, you're not going to be able to do it like, let's say, like Olin Kreutz or somebody that's played the game at a high level or somebody that coached at a high level, etc. But you should be able to do it at a reasonable level without reiterating silly stuff said by national broadcasters. But that's neither here nor there. What are some of the things I wanted to talk about? So yeah, the Porter interception was great, and it really made me start to feel good about the way this, despite the giving up the chunks of run, maybe these defensive backs could play well. But I rewatched the play from a couple of different angles, and if you watch the play from other angles, you'll see that Porter got a great jump and a great read, and part of that is Brock Osweiler is notorious for staring down a receiver he's going to throw it to. Porter made the good read, jumped on the ball, got the interception. But if you watch, Adrian Amos came up really late on the play, and I was really disappointed because I was hoping that Adrian Amos, with his second year, he played all 16 games last year for the Bears, and like I've said numerous times, is he didn't do anything great, but he didn't do anything terrible. He just sort of was meh. And I figured, all right, well, he played 16 games. He's got that under his belt. Pick up the speed of the game, watch a lot of film, get better, and make that quantum leap into the second year. So far, that hasn't happened. The first half, you saw the Bears consistently be able to move the ball by big chunks of yards, with Alshon Jeffrey taking on a way overmatched Kareem Jackson, and just absolutely abused him. And they had so many one-on-one coverages, which was ridiculous. What else did I want to talk about? You saw the Bears use a lot of the experience inside linebacker to really show what this defense can do at some level. You saw Jarrell Freeman make several big plays, including blowing up a screen pass in the second, at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter. Sorry, I didn't write the time down. He blew up a screen pass, and that's something that you wouldn't have seen last year because you had so much inexperience at the inside linebacker position. Now you have veterans. They're not so worried about where are they supposed to be and what are they supposed to be doing. They already know these things, and they have a sense of how to play this game. Now it's just they know the playbook. They know how to play the position. Now it's just their instincts, and their instincts kick in when they see a screen pass start going down, and they're going to go and break it up. Eddie Royal, not so bad on the punt returns. We talked earlier about what we thought we'd see from the Dow Logan's play calling, and we saw a little bit of it after Brian Cushing went out with a right knee injury. which, by the way, I've read the early reports are it's a torn MCL, and he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. But he is out for the time being, and the Bears decided to really start attacking with the run, hoping to be able to capitalize on that injury, which is something you don't root for injuries in this game, but if injuries happen, you try to take advantage of it and capitalize on it if possible, and that's what the Bears were trying to do. I had somebody already ask me why we didn't see a lot of Jordan Howard, especially on the short, third and 1, third and 2s, 4th and 1, etc. The reason you didn't is there was one play early in the game where Jordan Howard was in on a play, and he missed. He just absolutely whiffed on a blitz pickup. Just whiffed. He was late coming around on the pickup, and he missed, and Jay Cutler got hit. And that's why you didn't see him again, because there's a lot of guys in this world that are fast enough, strong enough, have good enough vision to be running backs at the NFL level. What differentiates you is your ability to pick up the blitz and be a blocker on passing downs. That's what separates NFL running backs from college running backs. And Jordan Howard completely missed, and that was it for him. And I'm sure you did see him at some point or another, but I didn't really, not significant time if he did get in. What else? I took a lot of notes here. We had the Bears. They had the lead going into the second quarter, and that's not really that significant. You should expect things like that if you have a decent team. But last year, the Bears only led once after the first quarter in all of 2015, and that was at the game against the Raiders, which they won. So they've already done that as many times, which is a good sign. It's a good sign. They're 1-for-1 at this point. Jacoby Glenn, I thought, looked pretty good. He got the spot start with the Kyle Fuller still nursing his knee injury, and Jacoby Glenn steps in, and I thought he did an admirable job. There was plenty of times he came in and stepped up and really made plays. And it was especially noticeable come the second half, before he went out with a little bit of an injury himself, is you saw, if you noticed, the Texans offense really started to go after Tracy Porter and attack Tracy Porter. And sure, Tracy Porter was covering DeAndre Hopkins most of the game, but they were going after him everywhere he was. And they weren't going after Jacoby Glenn. And I sensed that they saw that Jacoby Glenn was much better in one-on-one coverage and tight man coverage. Excuse me. And like I mentioned earlier, is he had that really great deep pass-up break in the end zone in the second quarter, which was another bad play by Adrian Amos, where he was late coming over the top. Absolutely late. Let's see. There was a time early in the game when the Bears were at a 4th and like a 1 yard, and they decided to go for it. There was a bad snap, and the Bears didn't get it. Jay Cutler tried to push and ended up not getting it. And I saw a lot of people just absolutely furious about it. Radio personalities upset about it. I had a little bit of an exchange with Chris and Big Dave over at Bow podcast. And if you don't check them out, make sure you check them out. It's BAWL. It's a great podcast. I've been on there several times, and they're great dudes, funny, and it's a good show. Anyway, they were all PO'd that the Bears decided to go for it, and I really, honestly, I commended them. Last year, and the knock on John Fox and his whole career, and especially, we brought it up last year because, he was the Bears head coach, so we obviously brought it up more, is how conservative the man is. He's just ridiculously conservative, and he doesn't usually go for these. And this was early in the game. The Bears had the momentum. They were trying to keep the momentum. Decided they were going to go for it on a 4th a short yard. And they were going to go quarterback sneak, and Cody Whitehair, the rookie center, who has only been a center in this NFL league for a week, once they signed Josh Shitton, they moved Ted Larson to the bench, moved Cody Whitehair from guard to center, and he snapped short. You can watch the game film over and over, and there's one quote, really well respected, unquote, sports, I guess, journalist, I'll use junior journalist loosely, is Michael Wilbon. And lately, I've been seeing a lot of his, I don't follow him on social media, but people have been retweeting him, and then I'll go over to his page and I'll make sure that this is a legit quote, because it's the stupidest thing I've ever read. And I'm not really big on calling people stupid, but when this is what your profession is and the things you're saying are just absolutely asinine, then yeah, I'm going to call you out on it. So Mike Wilbon, I hope you hear this somehow, some way, and I will debate you sports talk any day of the week, because either I had an overinflated opinion of you, or you're just really mailing it in the last couple of years, because you just absolutely sound like an ass. You were blaming Jay Cutler for that bad exchange. Go back and watch it. Watch it from slow motion. Watch it from every angle. The snap comes straight up and hits Cody Whitehair in his groin and his inner leg before it gets to Jay. It's a bad snap. It's a bad snap. You can't blame that one on Jay. It's a bad snap. It didn't go to where it was supposed to go. And Jay tried to do the best he could. And you can knock Jay for a lot of things, but people want to knock Jay for everything. You can't knock Jay for that. I thought it was I was glad the Bears decided to go for it on that fourth down, but I thought it was just a bad call with how they did it. You saw that they bunched up in the middle. You could have easily done a play action pass and probably walked into the end zone. You could have, instead of putting all the pressure on your rookie center, who's been a center for a week, you could have gone behind your $10 million guard or your $6 million guard and handed off to your stud running back and just gone that way. There's a lot of things you should have and could have done. It was just, I feel like that was a decision that John Fox was like, all right, we're going to make, and then he overrode Dow Logan's. I don't think that was a play that Dow called in. So it was the right call to make as far as going forward on fourth down. It was just poor execution and poor play calling. I can't get behind that. If you're going to go for it with a set of balls. Don't tippy toe in there. Go in there like you mean it. You're gonna take it. And that's what you're gonna do. Like you did on that first touchdown you scored. Is you lined up on the goal line and you smashed it right down their throats. They were lined up for it. They were geared up for it, and you just ran Jeremy Langford right through them to get that touchdown. And that's what you should have done there. Is lined up, smashed them, said, Here's the play we're going to run. Beat us. And that's how you got to do it. You can't go in there and be like, well, we're going to go for it, but I'm not sure what play. Maybe just, hopefully they have a penalty or something. Just go in there and be a man about it. John Fox, stop being a big baby. Go in there and leave the play calling to your play caller. You're not a good play caller. What else? The interior offensive line looked good in the first half, Sitting Long and Whitehair. Other than the bad snap, they looked good in the first half. But your two tackles, Jamarcus Leno and Jamarcus Massey, they looked bad. They looked like revolving doors out there. In the first half, at least, they were getting enough of a piece on people to give Jay some time to throw the ball. But come the second half, we'll talk about that later. The first half, the Bears defense wasn't getting any pressure on the quarterbacks, and they weren't stopping the run. It was all coming down to Brock Osweiler either not making the throw, the receiver dropping it, or the corners making a play because the safeties were non-existent. Porter got beat a bunch of times after the interception. Yeah, let's break it down by position group and sort of talk about it that way. It's easier to lump together. We'll start on defense. Is the defensive front. You didn't hear a lot of them until the third quarter. The third quarter, they really got some pressure on them, maybe a little bit in the fourth quarter. But the Bears' front seven wasn't getting a lot of pressure on there. The Texans have an okay offensive line, but it's nothing to write home about. It's not one of the best offensive lines. And the Bears just couldn't get pressure on Brock Osweiler for most of the game, and they weren't stopping the run very well. The inside linebackers, Jarrell Freeman played great. Other than that, it was okay. Your cornerbacks, I thought your cornerbacks played fairly decent, much better than I was expecting them to, especially considering that one of your starters, Kyle Fuller, wasn't playing. He's still recovering from that knee injury. And you were playing with a rookie Jacoby Glenn, or essentially a rookie Jacoby Glenn, and he went out with an injury, and you were playing with Bryce Callahan and your rookie DeAndre Hall. You still played fairly well. Now, I keep hearing the reporters and the broadcast team talking about not getting their head around. And I think that's misleading because a lot of people are going to get the misinterpretation of what's going on. There's two types of coverage. You're either running in phase or out of phase. And if you're running with, you're running one way you can turn your head and look. But if you're running the other way, you're not supposed to because you're going to lose your guy. If you turn and you're looking for the ball, you don't know where the receiver's going. You can't have it both ways. You've got to be able to be. The point they're making is when you see the receiver sticking his arms out to make the catch, then you need to put your head on a swivel and turn around and make the play and try to make the play. But you can't be watching the ball and watching your guy at the same time. It's impossible. Your eyes are only attached to the one side of your head. So it's just a little bit of silliness of being able to watch the ball and watch your guy. Is try to do it. Try to run with somebody who's running a route that you don't know and watch the quarterback throwing the ball. Try to do it. It's impossible. Physically impossible. Like I said, is you can watch your man and then try to stick your arms in his catching lanes or try to turn around when you think the ball is about to come. But those are things that take time to and experience to be able to get to. And not everybody does it. I mean, Darrelle Revis wasn't even doing it today as he get burnt by A.J. Green. But that's neither here nor there. The safety play was awful. HJQ, Harold Jones-Corte, was invisible. You only heard his name once because he tried to make a big hit, and he just kind of pushed the guy until they blew the whistle. And Adrian Amos, for the most part, he had one big breakup, which he had nice coverage on, but for the most part, he was late coming over the top so many times that it was really bad. He had a bad game. And I really how many times did I say during the preseason and of the offseason is that the Bears needed to boost their safety play if they're going to be a top defense or even a decent defense, and they're just not doing it. The safety play has just not been good. They're going to have to step up this game if they expect to be winners. Special teams, it's fine. Their coverage was okay. Return was okay. There's nothing special. Nothing was won or lost with special teams, unlike some of the Trestman era where there was just bad special teams. These was just fine. There was no winner or loser. It was just kind of a draw. Offense, quarterback play. First half was really good. It was exceptional. Jay had a great job in the first half. He had the one interception, but again, unlike what Mike Wilbon said, it was Kevin White, who's essentially a rookie, playing in his first NFL regular season game, he stopped short on his route. He just stopped on his route. These are timing routes. So what that means is this isn't like when you're playing catch with somebody and you're throwing the ball to where they are. These are timing routes, so you're throwing it to a spot where you're expecting them to be. And if the guy either runs the wrong route or he stops short, the ball goes way away from where the guy is, and the quarterback looks bad. The receiver doesn't look bad because he's nowhere near it. It looks like the quarterback doesn't know what he's doing and can't throw the ball. That was absolutely a route that was stopped short. Jay knows this playbook better than anybody else, other than maybe the coaches, and he knows it much better than essentially a rookie wide receiver, and he called him out on it on the field. He's got to continue those routes. So second half, it's hard to give Jay a grade because he just got manhandled in the second half. And I bet he's already got some nagging injuries just because of how many hits he took. Running backs. Kadeem Carey, he didn't get a lot of snaps, but when he did, he had some nice hard runs. I'm really starting to like Kadeem Carey. I think I can see why John Fox likes him. Jeremy Langford looked great. Nothing spectacular, but he's doing what they ask him to do. And Jordan Howard whiffed on a blitz pickup, and you didn't see a lot of them. Offensive line, this is a tale of two halves as well. The first half is, if you watched, they tried to go straight up on the Texans' defensive line. They tried to go straight at man-on-man and beat their own man to get to the quarterback. And Bears held up. The two tackles, for the most part, were able to push their guy wide enough to create a pocket. And the interior three, that's Josh Sitton, the new guy they signed from Green Bay, Cody Wayhair, their new center, and your franchise guard, Kyle Long, the three of them held up really well. I mean, Josh Sitton handled Jay Watt one-on-one for the most part. And there was some great plays where J.J. Watt tried to go to the outside, and Massey kind of shoved him out, and Kyle Long picked him up on a double team and just slammed him to the ground, and then just like double hand shoved his face into the dirt. And I love seeing it because he's just like, hey, no, not happening. And that was great, and the Bears looked good, and that's when the Bears were able to move the ball because they were able to contain this just stacked defensive line of the Texans. And this Texans defensive line is going to be arguably the best one the Bears face all season. And they did a good job in the first half. Second half, it was they manhandled the Bears. And a lot of people, if you listen to callers on the radio or Twitter or whatever, it sounds like the fans are like, well, they just forgot how to block, or the Texans decided to just start rushing the passer at that point. That's not the case at all. Offensive line is a really, how do I say this? The offensive line is a tough position to play because you're not just playing as a single person, you're playing as a unit. It's a 5-man unit, and individual guys need to play well in their own against the guy they're supposed to be blocking, but you need to be able to work as a unit because you're not just blocking the guy across from you. It's not that easy. That's not how it works. That's what happened in the first half, is they were just having to block the guy that was directly in front of them, the guy that was rushing directly at them, and they were able to handle it because they've got some talent on the offensive line now. What happens, though, is the defensive lines will do what little tricks and things here, like stunts and slants, that they'll go in and they will try to create confusion. And that's where they really destroyed the Bears. So you'll have your defensive tackle go push in towards the guard, and the guard has him. And instead of just pushing forward, he drops back and loops around the other tackle, comes around the other side, and the offensive line, it's usually the center that makes that call. The center will call out who's got to cover who, and you make your switch. You switch who you have to make sure everybody gets picked up. And when the Texans were doing these stunts, nobody was picking up the proper guy who was making the stunt, and that's when that's when you had a lot of issues. And this is one thing where I actually feel pretty good about, is because this defensive line is absolutely great with Vince Wilfork and Jadeveon Clowney and Whitney Merciless and J.J. Watt. This is an absolute stacked defensive line, and the Bears fared well against them. And it wasn't until the second half when they started utilizing schemes to beat the Bears that it started working. That's things you can work on. That's you just get better as you play more and more together. You get better. You get better as a unit. And the Bears have Josh Sitton and Kyle Long, who are veterans, and they're going to help Cody Whitehair make these calls and get better. And if not, you have Ted Larson, who is a veteran, who can make these calls, come in and make that step. This is the reason I sort of suspected that Ted Larson wouldn't be at the start, just because it was such a fantastic defensive line they were playing at that they would want the veteran experience, but they decided to go with the rookie. And God bless them for doing it. But that's something that's going to get better. This offensive line, as it stands right now, has had, I think, 4 practices together, 3 or 4 practices. That's not enough to get that to be in sync. You just don't get in sync until you've spent a lot of months and months together, working together as a unit, figuring out where your strengths and weaknesses are, and how you're going to block, how you're going to do this, that, and the other, and how to make the calls. And they're only going to get better, especially when you have 2 veterans on the inside at guard. And because you can see if your guys can handle J.J. Watt one-on-one and Vince Wilfork one-on-one, Jadeveon Clowney one-on-one, then once you're getting to lesser talent, you're going to be able to handle them, especially after you start learning how to make the play calls on these stunts. What else? And the 2 tackles, just Bobby Massey and Charles Leno Jr. looked bad. Bending at the waist. There's one where Whitney Merciless went around Bobby Massey, and I think Bobby Massey's still in a stance. It was so bad, and how slow he came out of it. That I don't know how you get better in the season at that. That was just getting beat by your guy. They do okay when you bull rush them, but with the speed those guys came around, it was tough. You're going to have to put guys in there to start chipping. And that's the only way you're going to be able to keep Jay Cutler standing upright as the season goes along. If those 2 can't start playing better, you got to start chipping guys. That's going to really affect how you make play calls. Wide receivers, Alshon looked great. I had a lot of people commenting why the Bears went to Alshon so many times in the first half and then barely went to him in the second half. And that one's an easy one as well. Is when the Texans went in halftime, they looked at what they were doing wrong in the first half and how to correct it. And one of the things they did was, like I said, they started doing schemes on the defensive line to get to Jay Cutler, and they worked. Those stunts started to work, and they were getting to Jay Cutler, crushing the pocket, hitting Jay Cutler, forcing him out of the pocket, and Jay had to throw faster and throw while getting hit. So you can't be as accurate. You can't step into the throws as much, and you don't have as much time for wide receivers to get open. The second thing, the more, I guess, impactful on the situation was in the first half is you had a lot of single-man coverage on Alshon Jeffrey, and nobody on that team is good enough to cover him one-on-one a whole game and keep winning those battles. So you started having their better cornerbacks cover him underneath, and then they put a safety over the top of him. And they basically said, beat us with somebody else. Beat us with Kevin White. Beat us with Eddie Royal. And they couldn't. Especially with how the pass rush was coming in. They couldn't beat him. So if you have a guy high and a guy low, you're just shadowing him everywhere he goes. It's really hard to make that play. Usually when that happens, you're creating an opening somewhere else, and somebody else has single coverage, but those guys have to beat their man, and that's where Kevin White is supposed to help. Is whenever they do that to Alshon Jeffrey, he's supposed to stretch the field and go deep, and you have him deep one-on-one, and he's going to be a tough matchup, but he's not beating his man, he's not running his routes correctly, and he's dropping too many passes. He's got to get better. Kevin White, I know this is his first regular season NFL game, but Kevin White needs to get better. Absolutely needs to get better if the Bears are going to be any good. Eddie Royal was all right. Nothing fantastic, but he was all right. Play calling is, let's see, I'm trying to think if we touched on all the things we wanted to look at. Play calling is Vic Fangio. They're going to have to clean up a few things. And like I said, I thought they got a lot out of the cornerback play. The safeties need to be better, and the defensive front need to fill those holes and not get beat and big on those run plays. Because if you're giving up 5-6 yards a clip running the ball, it's going to be really hard to stop an offense because they're going to get into second and third and shorts, and they can do it. If you have second and 1 or third and 1, they have every play in the playbook open, and it's tough to stop. Because if you gear up to stop that 1 yard, they could go on a deep pass, and you got guys one-on-one. And it is especially difficult because this Houston team, they've got a lot of speed and young stud wide receivers. They've got a lot of speed and young stud wide receivers. And the Bears just don't have enough skill and talent in their defensive backs to be able to cover those, especially when they're not getting as much pressure as they would like to. The Bears started rookie Leonard Floyd. He looked okay. There's some plays he looked good, some plays he didn't look so good. You got inconsistent pressure out of Willie Young and Lamar Houston. The inside rush was just negligible. I expected a lot more out of Eddie Goldman, and they just didn't get it. And offensive play calling, I thought in the first half the play calling was fantastic. They lined up and they smash mouth the ball when they needed to, and when they called passes, they were level different layers of wide receivers. So you had, if you watch the route tree, is you had a guy underneath on the same side, an intermediate guy, and a deep guy, and that creates confusion because you don't always know who you're supposed to cover, and sometimes you find guys wandering, and it's harder to tell where a quarterback's looking when he could be looking at any of the 3 levels. So it creates a nice ability to be able to throw, and I liked the play calling. And then when it came to the second half, it was hard because the offensive line couldn't stop what they were doing, and Jay Cutler didn't have any time, and they were blowing up run plays behind the line of scrimmage. It was just disintegrated in the second half, and they took away Alshon Jeffrey, so that was basically the Bears' offense, and Kevin White needs to get better. Kevin White needs to get better, and the Bears players need to play better before I can fully evaluate how Dole Loggins was going there. But the Bears need to play better. And as far as John Fox goes, late in the game, the Texans went for it on 4th and 1 and didn't get it. Well, in reality, they got it because, if the world is fair, the spot should not have been given the first down, but they gave them it was a 3rd and 1. They gave them the spot, and the Bears didn't challenge. They gave them the first down, didn't challenge, and they gave them an amazing spot. John Fox holds his challenge flag in his pocket. But then later in the game, Will Fuller makes this 35-yard catch. It's a perfectly good catch. Nobody in the world doubted it except for John Fox, and he throws the challenge flag. And he just looks stupid there. And I know John Fox he's been around the block a lot, but the problem with John Fox is that he's an old dog and he refuses to learn new tricks. There's people out there who's always striving to be better. And John Fox is not one of those people. He's good at what he's good at. He's bad at what he's bad at. And he just doesn't want to get better. He wants this team to get better. He wants to win. Neither one of those things I doubt. But the shortfalls that he has, he's not willing to address and get better to make this team better. And that's the frustrating part about John Fox. And that's what you knew about John Fox going into it. So some of these takeaway points of, the pregame things. Can the Bears defensive backs play well enough against the Texans and get turnovers? That was a yes and no. In the first half, yeah, they were able to play well. Part of it was there was some drop passes by their wide receivers. Part of it was the Bears just had great coverage. They got a turnover in the first half. But the second half is they picked on Tracy Porter and they found weaknesses in the Bears defense and did a lot of 3-4 wide receiver sets, and the Bears just didn't have enough horses to be able to play with them. How will the revamped offensive line hold up? Come the second half, not well. And how will Dal Logan's play calling look? First half looked great and then just fell apart when the offensive line couldn't block. Anything else? Yeah, I guess that's all I really wanted to talk about for the Bears. Next week, the Bears are taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who they looked very good this week. And Carson Wentz, the rookie playing in his very first NFL regular season game, looked fantastic. Again, this was an underachieving team last year that was really bad. And they were playing Cleveland Browns, who are regarded as possibly the worst team in the NFL this year. So it's hard to gauge. But the Bears are going to need to play a lot better this game than the next game than they did in this game if they expect to win. And part of that is going to be protecting Jay Cutler. So if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to talk about this game, we're wide open and we'll continue any questions prior to next week's discussion. You can hit us up on Twitter at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Make sure you're subscribing on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, however you listen. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go Bears.